the planning board meeting of May 10th to order. Mr. Warren, would you introduce the pledge of the flag, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first up tonight, we have PB 17-20, dedicated dental site plan deck. It's in for preliminary, pre-preliminary, final, and secret review. Would you please come in, state your name for the record, and if you'd sign in, Dominic Pella. And we have an opening statement, we'd like to hear it. Dominic Pella. Yeah.
Audra, ADRA. BUBESI. BUBESI. I got it.
Right. All right, do you want to describe?
Yeah.
Oh, you have an opening statement, Mr. Pella?
So we are proposing a 200 square foot enclosure at the rear of the building, 170 of it being existing deck. We're removing the existing decking, keeping the framing, adding 5 footings and extending the deck and enclosing it, keeping the roof line, and adding 70 square feet. So a total of 200 square feet enclosure. We're keeping the same pitch of the roof and the gutter line that's existing, we're just going to extend.
And what's that space going to be used for?
That space is going to be used for a dedicated dental office. It's an office space.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And we're respecting the side yard setback.
All right, Mr. Young, would you read the comments, please?
Sure. Dedicated dental site plan for deck, May 3rd, 2017, from the Project Review Committee. The PRC has no additional comments beyond the comments submitted by the other agencies for this project. From the Office of Zoning and Planning, from John Giardello, May 10th, 2017. Mr. Giardello has 2 comments. The existing and proposed floor area ratio is less than 1. Please correct the zoning bulk table. Number 2, the short environmental assessment form appears to be in order, except items 5A and 5B should be answered yes. From the Department of Environmental Management and Engineering, from Bruce Peters, on May 4th, 2017, 1 comment. The existing septic system or sanitary house connection location shall be shown on the plan. Rockland County Department of Planning, April 28th, 2017, from Douglas Schutz. Let's see. 1 comment. As indicated on April 21st letter from the Rockland County Department of Highways, a permit must be obtained. Rockland County Highway Department, April 21st, 2017, from Joe Arena. Mr. Arena has 2 comments. The proposed action should have a de minimis impact on county highway system. Number 2, due to the proximity to the county highway, if the proposed construction requires the installation of concrete footings or padding, then a work permit will be required from the Rockland County Highway Department. Rockland County Division of Environmental Health, from Scott McCain, April 12th, 2017. We've received a site plan and architectural plans for the above referenced project prepared by Dominic Pella Associates, dated January 4th, 2017. Based on the information provided, there are no Rockland County Department of Health approvals needed for this application. Rockland County Drainage, letter dated April 19th, 2017, from Vincent Altieri. Some of it should be, the Rockland County Drainage Agency does not object to the planning board assuming responsibility of lead agency for SECRA purposes in the above referenced matter. Rockland County Sewer District Number 1, April 21st, 2017, from Joseph LaFiandra. 2 comments. Rockland County Sewer does not object to the planning board serving as lead agency, and they also do not object to the plan as shown. We also have correspondence from Orangetown Zoning Board, Rockland County Highway, Rockland County Department of Health, and Rockland County Planning, all consenting planning board serve as lead agency. That's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Young. All right, does anyone have any comments on this application? Mr. Mandel?
No comments.
Next.
No comments?
Okay, I don't have any. How about you, Bill?
I have nothing.
No. Is there any public comment on this application? All right, hearing none, I'll take a motion. This public portion of the hearing. Mr. Mandel, Warren second, all in favor?
Aye. This is
Okay.
for final, Cheryl?
So I
Yes.
need a motion for lead agency, lead agency.
Motion.
Mr. Mandel, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then we need a motion for
Final conditions.
neg
Neg
deck.
deck.
Neg deck.
Motion.
Mr. Mandel. Mr. Warren, second. All in favor?
Aye.
And then a motion for preliminary,
Final conditions.
final with conditions, okay. Mr. Warren. Yeah, we could do that, yeah. Everybody's okay with that? Okay. Thank you. All right. So we'll waive Akabor. All right, the conditions are gonna be,
Motion to waive.
oh, we can't just include that in the overall thing? No? Is this,
We didn't ever make the motion actually to final.
okay, so, there's the motion, right? For final, okay?
You want to give a reason, except the rear of the property,
Okay,
minimum, you won't see it, minimum addition, small addition.
okay. So we have, there's really no reason for it to go to Akabor because it's such a minimal disturbance on the property, so.
Addition in the rear.
And it's from the rear of the property. It was a deck to begin with, so it's not a big deal. All right, we need a formal vote on that?
Well, included as.
We'll just include it, okay, that's what I thought we were gonna do. All right, so we have John Giardello's letter of May 10th, points number 1 and 2. Department of Environmental Management and Engineering, from Bruce Peters, his 1 comment. We have Rockland County Planning, their 1 comment. Rockland County Highways, they have 2 comments. We don't need Rockland County Health, we don't need anything from that. Rockland County Drainage, just their last comment about us being, assuming responsibilities for lead agency.
Those are outside the jurisdiction.
And, yeah, no permanent requirement, right. And then we just have Orangetown Zoning Board of Appeals, Rockland County Highway Department, and Rockland County Department of Health, and Rockland County Planning, all signing off as us being the lead agency, so without any objection, so. I need a second. Mr. Mandel, all in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, we have PB 17-21, Parkway Associates and / King Car Service. They're in here for a pre-preliminary, preliminary, and final parking plan and SECO review. Is anyone here for that? Just step forward, sign in, please, and state your name for the record, and if you have an opening statement, we'd like to hear it.
James B. Damiani.
This pen is stopped writing. I have one. They're gonna be there for the day, I guess, so cars are there. It's not, but it's unusual. Yeah. I'll give you that. Okay, Mr. Damian, you have an opening statement?
Yes, I do.
I've been the owner of 1-11 Veterans Parkway for the last 34 years. The building was built in 1953 as a mixed-use building with retail stores on the ground floor and offices on the second floor. About a year ago, we had a vacancy in the second floor, and King Car Service came to me and asked me if they could rent an office on the second floor. The property's in the CO zone. Since it's a business office zone, I didn't think there would be any problem to rent it to them, so I did. And then I understand from my partner there was some complaints, but they're good tenants. They do not use an inordinate amount of the parking lot. We have parking there for about 20 cars. And they're good tenants. So I'm asking for a CO to allow them to continue to rent there.
Mr. Young, would you read the comments, please?
Project Review Committee Report, May 3rd, 2017. The PRC has no additional comments beyond the comments submitted by other agencies for this project. We have I'll start off with a letter from Mr. Damiani. We are dated April 7th, 2017. We are seeking a variance for our commercial building in Pearl River to allow King Car Service to remain as a tenant. We were unaware that a car service having an office in our building and did not conform to the zoning when we leased the office space to them. We have 3 retail tenants on the first floor of the building and 3 offices on the second floor. The patrons and employees of various businesses use the parking lot and commercial space at varying days and times during the week. 2 of the offices on the second floor are rarely there on weekends. While the retail tenants have more usage on the weekends, employees who park all day are encouraged to use the parking places designated for employees to leave more space for patrons. Car service autos, when parked, are rarely there for long, as they are on the road providing transportation for their customers. The majority of their clientele are Orangetown residents. Thank you for your consideration. James V. Damiani, Parkway Associates. Letter from Office of Zoning, Building, Zoning, and Planning, John Giardello, May 10th, 2017. Mr. Giardello has 6 comments. Should we go through them all? The applicant is looking to obtain a certificate of occupancy for a livery service at the above subject property. The property never had a site plan approval. 2, the original building dates back to 1953, which at the time was 5 stores and 5 offices above. A subsequent certificate of occupancy issued in 1986 was for 3 retail stores and 3 offices, which currently exist on the property. It is unclear from the records in the building department as to the exact location of the existing parking areas. Number 3, the zoning code does not specifically address livery service in the use tables, so I am requesting this applicant to proceed to the Zoning Board of Appeals for an interpretation of the zoning code regulations for a commercial office zone district, which does allow business as a permitted, as a use permitted by right. Specifically, would this livery service fall under the business use in CO zone district? Number 4, a zoning board of appeals variance for parking will need to be sought since 20 parking spaces are required and 17 parking spaces are provided. The zoning board of appeals or planning board may want to restrict the number of vehicles allowed on the site at any one time for the livery service. The short EAF form appears to be in order. From the Department of Environmental Management and Engineering, from Bruce Peters, dated May 4th, 2017. This department has no comment on the project at this time. From Rockland County Department of Planning, Douglas Schutz, from April 27th, 2017. Is a recommendation with 3 items. Some. Is it 5? Oh, thank you, Mr. Sweeney. 5 items. Item number 1, some of the parking area is located on the corner of Veterans Parkway and North Middletown Road. This parking area should only be accessed from Veterans Parkway to avoid conflict points on the county roadway. In addition, no vehicles shall back out from these parking spots into the county highway. Number 2, a review shall be completed by the New York State Department of Transportation and any required permits obtained. Number 3, most of the parking spaces are located partially or entirely outside of the property boundary. Since all but 2 of these spaces are located within a town right-of-way, the town must indicate that it is permissible for the owner of the property to use the roadway to satisfy its parking requirements. Number 4, since the commercial use is proposed to be intensified, we suggest that the town require screening along the eastern property line adjacent to the residential use. Number 5, it appears that a use variance will be required for the car service use. We request the opportunity to review the application for the use variance when it's submitted to the Orangetown Zoning Board of Appeals. Rockland County Highway Department, April 21st, 2017, from Joseph Arena. Based on the plans and information provided, the proposed action should have de minimis impact upon county highway system. A Rockland County Highway Department work permit will not be required for this activity. We remand this matter for local determination. Rockland County Division of Environmental Health, April 13th, 2017, from Scott McCain. We received a parking plan for Damiani and Beers for the above referenced project prepared by Robert Soares, dated February 22nd, 2017. Based on the information provided, there are no Rockland County Department of Health approvals needed for this application. Rockland County Sewer District Number 1, April 21st, 2017, from Joseph LaFiandra. Mr. LaFiandra has 2 comments. 1, the sewer does not object to Planning Board serving as lead agency, and they do not have objection to the plan as shown. Correspondence from Orangetown Zoning Board, Orangetown County Highway Department, New York State DOT, all consenting Orangetown Planning Board should serve as lead agency. That's all I had, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, I have another letter. Sorry, one more letter. It was received on May 9th from Felice Morris, 19 Elmendorf Lane, Pearl River, New York. Two. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mandel, you have any questions on this? Yeah.
Looking at the plans here, and looking at the letter we received from... Felice Morris, who lives at 19 Elmendorf Lane, which is the property adjacent to the subject property. Those parking spaces that you have marked there for employees, what type of surface is that?
It's a gravel surface, you know, like mixed gravel surface, which we seeded and mow,
So it-
because we have grass growing up through the gravel.
So you have grass growing up through the gravel, so... And there are 8 parking spots. Are those parking spots marked?
Well, it's like I said, there's grass growing up through there, which we mow.
So
But
they're
when-
not marked spots in any manner, shape, or form?
They're not, no, they're not striped or anything like that, no.
Okay. Secondly, I'm looking at the map, and it appears, and I need also an opinion from town attorney, it appears their parking spots are off their property. Is that permitted by code?
Well, no, I think the highway department is aware of the situation, but I think it's existed for so long that they have not, you know, I don't know that I'd say it's grandfathered, but that's something we'd have to speak to Mr. Dean about.
Okay. I'd like to get a comment from Mr. Dean on that before we do a final or anything. Also, I'd like to see, my suggestion is, and it's also Rockland County Planning Number 4, they'd like to see a screening along the eastern boundary line, which I think if there's cars parked there, it should be to the, because now if there's nothing there, it's a detriment to the person that lives next door. So there should be some screening from commercial to residential.
That property line is fenced now?
It is not. There's a line of shrubberies there on the neighbor's property and some trees. I'm not sure exactly if they're on the line, which side of the line they're on, but that's been that way, you know, since I've been involved with the building, which is over 33 years, 34 years. But if, you know, if you want me to fence it, you know, or screen it, I
Yeah.
can do that.
Decorative fencing, 6 foot in height, or trees that would do
Yeah, I
the
would-
same?
I would, you know, Mrs. Kitchenman lives there, she's lived there, she's been a neighbor, I think, just about as long, she's been there about as long as I have. If she, you know, I mean, I don't know if she would like a 6-foot fence along her property line, but I'll put it there if you want me to.
Well, I would ask her, and I would sit down with that person and find out what
Yeah,
they're
I
looking
would-
for.
And it probably can't be 6 foot across the whole property line, because as it gets closer to the street, right, there's a certain.
Yeah,
Yeah, the-
setback,
yeah,
right?
yeah, whatever the setback,
Right.
going along with the setback.
Yeah, it would have to drop to a certain height.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with that. And, now, in the past, we've had problems with cars parking over there.
Have we had problems?
I know we've had complaints, John, have we have complaints over there about cars parking in the street and over,
I've heard that there was complaints, but I haven't received them.
yeah,
Can I address that?
surely.
I did hear something about complaints about parking. I investigated it. What I found out was that the condominium complex diagonally across from our property is, I think, 60 or so condominium units there. They were resurfacing their parking lot at one point last summer, and the residents of the condominium needed to park off of the property, and a lot of them, a bunch of them parked on our street.
Okay, how many vehicles does the car service park at your location?
2 or 3,
And was that overnight,
no,
continuous basis?
not, I mean, I go by there a couple of times a week. Since this has all come up, to check myself, I've never seen more than 3 vehicles there at any time from that tenant.
No further at this time, but I reserve the right to ask it should anything come up during the public comment meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Sweeney?
I just had, some similar concerns about the parking, so I just really, before this went for final, I'd like to see some of the questions from the Department of Planning be answered with regards to those spots. That's all I have.
Mr. Warren?
Yeah, this is to Mr. Gianello. You're requesting that they go to ZBA in order to get the interpretation on the use variance. Should we even be looking at this until they do get their use variance?
Well, you can look at it. I'm asking them for interpretation, because the CO zone allows business.
If they don't give them the use variance, then this is a viewpoint.
Then he wouldn't be able to be there.
So what I'm trying to get at is should we have them go to the ZBA in order to get that use variance and before, we continue with this?
Yeah, you can refer it, since it would be for an interpretation. Typically, what happens here is there's an approval, and you can't give any approvals when I say you, I mean the planning board and then subsequently the zoning board without having a secret review. So typically that gets taken care of here and then it goes to zoning board. In this instance, it's going for really an interpretation as opposed to an approval to zoning board. So what you could do tonight is if you want to refer it to the zoning board to hear it for an interpretation, they can give an interpretation one way or the other. If the interpretation is it needs a use variance, then, you know, we can address it about either coming here or them doing secret if they see fit to grant the use variance, or if they don't see fit to grant the use variance, then there's no need for a secret review. So that would be my recommendation is, at this point, send it to them
Okay.
for an interpretation.
But we'll take whatever questions you have tonight.
Right,
All right.
okay. All right, that's all I have, other
Yeah.
than what the other members have said.
Mr. Young?
I have the same concerns as Mr. Warren. I would like to hear what the public has to say as well. These 8 reserved spots, so you're not planning to pave that parking area?
I'd rather not. I think it's environmentally, it's better if it's a porous surface.
I was going to get to the drainage aspects of it, too. You would have to get approved for drainage as well if he did.
You know, the way it is now, you know, rainwater can perk down through the gravel and the grass that's there. When we do have a need for it, I've informed the tenants that if they're going to be there all day working, such as the hair salon, they're usually there for the duration of the day, just pull forward so you make room for your customers. There's a little, gives us another 6 or 8 parking spaces.
Are the drivers driving their own cars and then picking up town cars and then driving away, or so?
The delivery service,
Yes.
they.
Are they driving their own vehicles for business purposes, or are they dropping
No, I
off
don't
their
thi-
personal
I don't believe
cars?
so. I believe the car service owns the vehicles.
I think what he's asking is, do the employees bring their vehicles there, their personal vehicles, park them there, and then take delivery cars out?
I don't believe so, but I don't know.
Is that what?
That's
Yeah,
exactly it,
that's
because
what
it does affect the traffic and
Yeah, obviously it would, yeah. But again, if they're going to be on a 8-hour or 12-hour shift, they can pull their cars forward into the employee parking, and that way, you know, freeing up the parking that borders the roadway.
that's all I had at this time, Mr. Chairman.
I guess my question would be, I understand this building's been there forever, that
Almost.
parking in front has been there for just as long. Is this the opportunity to correct, like, you have the 1 through 8 spaces where they put them back onto the property? The first 8 spaces, so they don't park in the town right away? He's shown all of them, well, the first 15 spaces.
And the 2 on the corner,
Yeah, well, those 2 in the corner are,
I don't think.
but let's say the first 15 spaces, 1 through 8, you could move it back, and they would be parked out of the right of way. I mean, is that something we should be entertaining, or, I mean,
I don't know how they're gonna really use those 8 reserved spaces.
Right.
They have to park their cars there and leave them there, you know.
well,
all day.
you could,
employees.
if obviously nobody's behind you, you can
Right.
back out, but the problem with eliminating those 8 spaces, forget about what use is there,
Right.
is those 8 cars can go park anywhere along Veterans Parkway, right? There's no restriction on parking on Veterans Highway. You can park all day in front of somebody's house, so it's, you know, you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, you know?
I mean, I would.
For whatever use is there,
Yeah.
so.
The parking plan, that parking plan that you see there, that we, about, you know, I originally had my own real estate company there. We've been parking that way,
It
you
used
know,
to be
before.
It was
actually,
Wood Narrow
I worked at-
before it was you.
Right, and I worked for him,
Yep.
and we parked that way, you know, I didn't own the building then.
Right.
I bought the building you know, after going to work for him for some years. But we all parked that way, and You know, it's, the roadway is wide there, so that we're not really in the,
Right, it doesn't
I mean,
interfere with...
technically, we are in the right of
but it
way,
doesn't,
but
I would agree
we're
with you.
not
It does-
impeding traffic
Okay.
in any
All right,
way.
well, it was just an observation, so. All right, I'll open it up to public comment. If you'd please step forward, state your name for the record. I guess this little red button is the timer? Okay, so we tried to stick to the 3-minute limit. All right. And,
Karen Serafin, S as in Sam, E-R-A-F-I-N. Karen, K-A-R-E-N. 33 Veterans Parkway.
this is this
Pearl
one?
River?
I thought it was that one.
I'm 3
What am I
houses
doing?
away
Just hitting-
from, yep. So I have photos that I've taken. I originally filed a complaint with Code Enforcement Office a year ago when these people came in and got office space. And it was a Friday or Saturday evening. I went out to take a picture, had come home with my grandkids, and there were numerous vehicles in the parking lot with gentlemen sitting on the back of their vehicles with loud music. So I took a picture, and I was heckled by the employees to get back in my house. And I then forwarded that picture to the code enforcement officer at the time, which was Paul Whitty. And my understanding is that code enforcement did go and put them in violation or gave them a ticket. The gentleman of the car service showed up one time in court and has not appeared the 8 other times he was required to show up to court. So there's still outstanding violations with the building department that have not been addressed by the car service company, King Car Service. These cars are there all day long, all night long, all weekend long. I just took this picture before I left this evening. This is an employee that just came and pulled up in front of my neighbor's house across the street, walked across the street, got in a Livia car, and left his car there. There is 1, 2, 3, 4 with a van, plus up at the top of the corner, there are 2 other vehicles that were parked there. I couldn't take a picture, couldn't download it off my picture, but the car was idling in. It was a black SUV vehicle. This morning, this picture I took, which was a Escalade of some sort with no plates on it, that is from King's Car Service. This was 7:15 yesterday morning, 4 cars idling in the driveway, and this car was at the top of the block. So they are there 24/7, cars are idling, there are employees there all the time. There is no parking for the woman in the hairdresser place. I've spoken to her. There is no parking for the cupcake service that just moved in. There is no spaces for the ice cream place that just moved in because they've taken everything over. They fight with the neighbors. They've pulled in my driveway, turned around to get back up the block. They pull around on Pilgrim Court and do illegal U-turns. I've said something to them numerous times. They don't listen. They just do whatever they want. If you go in the office and speak to the girl that works in there, she has a very sharp tongue, and she's not friendly to the neighborhood. We all have children. I have grandchildren that live in my house. My grandchildren just moved across the street. I have a neighbor that has 2 children. There's kids out in the street all the time. They don't need to be hit by cars that are doing U-turns in the middle of the road. Everybody needs to operate a business. I understand that. It's a great thing, but this is not the neighborhood to operate a car service in. Thank you.
Frank Zara, Pilgrim Court, Z-A-R-A. 11 Pilgrim Court, Pearl River. I'm a half a block away. I've confronted a livery cab driver in front of my house. He checked his oil. When I confronted him, he threw an oily rag at me, got in the car and drove away. Do I need to come out with a baseball bat and crack somebody's head open and be arrested? I hope this is all getting taped, because that's what's it's gonna come down to that. I moved out of the Bronx 27 years ago to avoid this, and now I'm paying $15,000 in taxes to have it. It's bullshit.
All right, next.
Anthony, last name Lobasso, all one word, L-O-B-A-S-S-O. Correct. And what's your address? 32 Veterans Parkway, I've been a resident there for 41 and a half years. So what I've seen over the last 30 years shouldn't apply to what's going on today, because things are completely changed. It was about a year ago, as Mr. Damiani said, that they moved in. But before that, I got a note from the town about the ice factory. And I couldn't follow the address, so I asked my mailman, what's the address? He said, that address doesn't exist. So I went down to the town, and they straightened it out what the address was. I said, well, by the way, how come I didn't get a notice about the taxi cab place open? And they looked at me and they said, what are you talking about? So I went in and spoke with Mr. McPherson, and he said we had no knowledge of this business being there. What I observed, and I don't know if Mr. Damiani walks around to his property, in the back of the building, in one section are these 3 tires. Another section is this 1 tire. Hopefully no kid gets back there and it gets to be a little smart aleck with a lighter or matches, because it'd be a mess. Because they'll go up very easily. The other night also, I noticed a fellow walking from just where the entrance is to the building where they go upstairs. He had a gas can in his hand. It was an old one. He walks over to he come from one of the cars that was in those 2 parking spots that are to the left of the building. He went to a car, opened the trunk, and threw the gas can in the trunk. Now, from my experience, you can never get all the gas out of a gas can, and the fumes are very volatile. That situation is very, very dangerous. I almost saw an accident there the other day when folks were saying they shouldn't back out. Well, he was up at the corner where the utility pole is and backed out. Somebody coming from Middletown Road, going north, making a right-hand turn into Veterans Parkway, they just missed each other by a few inches. And those 2 parking spots that are on the west side of the building have a parking lot stretcher to them, because now there are big vehicles that are parking almost on Middletown Road. And as long as I'm living there, there are 2 people that come that way every single day. One is a fellow that walks probably to the train station, another fellow that everybody must know him. He jogs up and down Middletown Road. You can't see them if they come from behind where they're parking those buildings, especially the fact there that you can make a right-hand turn on a red. Somebody's going to get hurt. Now, the question come up, how many vehicles are there? Well, nobody in this room can tell you, because they use cars with livery plates, taxi plates, and just regular New York state plates. I'm not a nosy neighbor, but I'm retired, I'm outside, and I see those people get in their own private cars, drive them away, come back, and then comes up the question, what kind of insurance do these people have? What happens if somebody gets seriously hurt? I think they're day drivers. Then they may have just a minimum insurance. I think we all should look at that.
Your time is up here, so.
Oh, okay, I didn't know I was on time, but I could really keep going. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Maureen Smith. Maureen Smith. And my address is 54 Cara Drive, C-A-R-A, in Pearl River. I'll just comment, I grew up at 19 Veterans Parkway, which is the residence right next to the property we're talking about, the space we're talking about. And I just want to say, I mean, I grew up in that area. The grass area that Mr. Damiani is referring to my knowledge, nobody's ever used that area for parking. So you're talking about additional space that, you know, for cars that really hasn't been used for that use in the past. In addition, there's definitely far more than 2 or 3 cars that are parked there at a given time. And in addition to the livery cars and the SUVs, there are also those large party vans occasionally that are parked there. You know, there are concerns about garbage disposal. There have been times when there have been so many cars in that lot where the garbage truck can't get there to remove the garbage, and it's remained there, and people have said that there are issues with rodents. And, you know, I mean, clearly, the tenant that's there doesn't have regard for the neighbors and the community that are existing there, supposed to coexist together. So I just wanted to, say, I think that really needs to be taken into consideration. There's a history here. They've not demonstrated that they're good neighbors, that they want to work with the other residents and the other retailers. So I just think, again, just wanted to point that out, and I think it needs to really be taken into consideration.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, I'll take a motion to close the public portion.
I'll make a motion to
Mr.
close
Lawrence.
public.
Second, Mr. Mandel, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so what are we doing with this?
I guess, at this point, if you refer to the zoning board for the interpretation, because it's really gonna be
Yeah, it's.
up to them, because John and I were discussing, there's nothing in the code that addresses livery car service or car service in terms of where it's permitted. So if there's nothing there, it means it's not. But, again, if it were a situation where there was an office and it was, they conducted business there and, the cars weren't there, that might tend to lead towards, it's just an office. But with what's being described, that might tend to lead to more intensive use, and that it doesn't just fit the office, so. But that's a determination to be made by the ZBA.
Are there violations filed with your department, John?
Yes.
There are.
We had issued summonses. He was in court, operating without a CO, use not permitted, things of that nature.
But it's Mr. Damiani's tenant, not Mr. Damiani,
Right.
or is
Sorry, it was the car service,
the car service?
which is
okay.
Parkway. So, and I'm sorry, King Car Service.
And where were they
But they're
located?
both cited because the owner and the business is cited.
Where did they move here from? Do we know?
I don't know. I ask him.
The owner's from Pearl River. I believe he had an office somewhere in town before this. I don't know where.
Okay.
Those violations still outstanding?
Right, and that's why he's here. That's what happens. We go to court, and the court says, okay, you go to planning board, go to zoning board. He's got to exhaust his administrative rights. If it gets turned down, then we go back to court and say, you got to remove the business.
Yeah, upon the interpretation, it would come back here for,
Depending on what the interpretation is. If the ZBA determines it falls under the business category, they may set some kind of requirements. Depends, like hours of operation and total number of vehicles allowed on the site at any one time. Then then it would come back here, you would review the site plan, maybe clarify the site plan to show where the King Car Service would have their vehicles, where the other people would park their vehicles, things like that. You can be more descriptive. If they decide he needs a use variance, then he's got to go to the ZBA and actually apply for a use variance and prove his case, and if he gets it, then he'd be back here again. So, two process here.
Okay. All right, so what are we doing tonight then?
So I would say, asking for a continuation, refer to the ZBA for the interpretation, because that's the real determining factor, whether you're gonna review it and give it any
Well,
kind
that's
of
what
approval.
I asked you,
Right.
Should we even proceed with it, go any further forward until the ZBA does make a determination on it?
Well, you could also make recommendations, if
No,
you
I
so
agree.
choose,
I think the board will make some
You might,
recommendations, but,
say whatever, you want them to change something or do something else, or recommend to the ZBA that you looked at the site plan and you have concerns about what you said, move the parking onto this property. I mean, I don't know. Yeah,
For
that's-
example, it doesn't show a dumpster on here, so if you're
Well,
gonna put a
that's-
dumpster in,
right.
you're gonna lose a parking spot, so now we're down to 16. So that's what I'm saying, all these things are gonna add up and add up and add up.
He never had a site plan approval because he predated site plan approval from the town when he built the building in 1953.
Right.
There was no such thing. That's why my first comment says, I don't know what type of parking was approved because there's no record showing any type of parking plan at that time. I'm assuming he hasn't changed it, but I don't know. When I say the spaces that are in the right of way.
Right, no, the spaces in the right of way have always
Right,
been
so-
there,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, there's no question about
Because it's
that.
right on the street, the
Yeah.
storefront.
Whether they park back on that grass, that's
Right,
another story,
that's-
but, and even up on the corner, there was never a ton of parking up that I recall up on the corner up there, you know.
Right.
I think that's a perfect place for the dumpster, this way there's no parking there. This way I don't have to worry about
We,
anybody
we
coming
do
in.
have a dumpster on the there is a dumpster on the property next to.
Yeah, no, but I'm
next
just
to the
saying, sir,
building.
plans don't show it, so, which they would have to.
I don't know if county highway would allow it. I mean,
Well, it's
Just-
an idea, it's gotta, they gotta go, keep going.
It sounds like the county highway recognizes the spots in their right of way. They didn't say you have to remove them. Sounds like they
No,
know
they
they're
really
there.
didn't
Right, They
address it.
just don't want them backing out of them, so.
All right, well, I mean, it does seem like a pretty, you know, intense use for this property, being
Well,
that
that's
you
the whole
have
idea.
3 other tenants there. And how many offices upstairs? There's 3 offices upstairs or
3
5 offices upstairs?
There's 6 tenants in the building.
6 tenants, I mean,
Three,
so.
3 retail
For,
and
for,
3
Three
office.
for,
offices,
for
3
one, you know, for 1/6 of the space, they seem like they're putting a pretty heavy use on the parking.
Two
And-
food service.
And the building.
One
That's-
beauty salon and 3 office.
Yeah. So, that's,
To ask for continuance?
all right, so, we refer to the, we're referring it to the ZBA?
Yeah.
You want to
Let's go
suggest
for the
that you
I
make
think
a
we
motion?
should-
Suggesting that?
we're recommending.
Yeah.
Recommend, would you be willing to continue this and go to the ZBA and, because you have to go there anyway. So this way, if you ask for a continuation, then you, once you have their decision, you can come back to us if in fact that you do get it. And in this way, it makes it easier. We can give our comments right now, and then we can add that if you guys want.
What do you mean?
Well,
If you want the ZBA to look at certain things.
Well, you know, I would just send it over to them and.
yeah, I think they're more than capable of handling it, so.
They'll see it.
All right, and it comes, you know, assuming they give it approval, it comes back to us for, we're the ones who have final say.
So, in essence,
On
are
what's
you
going on,
requesting it
so.
continuing so you can go to
Yes,
ZBA?
yes,
Okay.
I'd like to.
Okay.
So why don't you just take a vote to refer it to the ZBA
Okay,
for
so,
interpretation?
I'll take a motion to refer it to the ZBA.
For
the
interpretation.
Interpretation,
For
Mr.
interpretation.
Mandel, Mr. Sweeney, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all right, thank you.
What's gonna happen is they're gonna have to go to ZBA now. And ZBA will make a determination one way or the other. So, it will be posted, Cheryl will post it when it goes to ZBA, so that you can go at that meeting and make your presentation. And then, depending on what they do, if it's approved, they'll come back to us, and then we'll continue forward with it. Okay?
All right, next we have SKA site plan, PB 17-09.
Do you
Mr.
need
Brenner,
this-
that's
Do you
you?
need this back? Oh,
All right.
this for me.
Please sign in, and if you have any opening comment, we'd like to hear it.
Yes.
Bigger headache than. Do what? Okay, yeah.
They are.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, before you get going on this, as the board may be aware, there's a moratorium was recently issued by issued, I should say, by the town board with respect to cell towers, antenna, et cetera, things of that nature, which would arguably apply to this application. I discussed this with Mr. Brenner before we started. There is a section of that law with respect to existing applications. I'll just read it and let you know my interpretation. It says, "The moratorium implemented shall not apply to otherwise covered building permits or other approvals issued before the effective date of this local law, which have not been closed out by the issuance of a CO or a certificate of compliance, or to other complete land use approval applications which have been filed and have received preliminary and/or final approval prior to the effective date hereof." We discussed it. I hadn't looked. My feeling was this had received preliminary last time, but it did not. So since it did not receive preliminary or final approval prior to the effective date of the law, arguably the moratorium applies to this application at this point. There is a provision for a hardship, and, you know, I'll let Mr. Brenner speak to whether or not he thinks a hardship this fits a hardship, it may, given how far along it is, but that relief does not come from this board. He's got to go to the town board for that. Now, I know it was addressed when the board issued the moratorium, that perhaps it would be a hardship, but at this point, I wouldn't go ahead with the hearing on this until he gets the hardship from the town board, if they get that.
Okay, can I speak now? Okay, I appeared before the town board at the time of the moratorium. I explained the situation to the town board. The town board told me I can't file for the hardship. They also told me to proceed to get an approval and then come back and get the hardship. That was one of the things that here. I would like the board to understand that this application started over a year ago. We discussed this, we went to the planning board, we went to the building department, we put applications into the building department for it. The building department finally, after this, we started this in August of 2016. Finally, we got a denial on December 6th, 16, and we were sent to the board. We now went to the board. The board had a hearing in, the board had a hearing on February 8th, 17. We kept saying this is not applicable to the existing tower law that was in effect at that time. They sent us to 2 consultants. We went to a consultant down in Florida. My client paid a fee for that. They sent us to a consultant here in New Jersey. My client paid a fee for that. Both clients came back and said we were not part of the old law. In other words, there was no reason why we were being delayed all this amount of time. We were delayed over a year on misinterpretation, okay? We have spent my client has spent a tremendous amount of money on this. That's all I want to do is to continue, get my approvals, go back to the town board for a hardship. My client's at risk here of spending all this money for the continued of these hearings, and I believe that the board can hear it, give their recommendations, and understanding that my client is not going to get a permit until I get the hardship ruling by the town board. And this is just another delay, and this has been delayed over a year.
You know, if you insist on going there, the delay was not as a result of the town. The application was incomplete. So it's not the town's problem that your application was incomplete. Let me finish.
The application's dated November 18th.
That's correct, but we've been talking about this way before the application, and there was no reason even to go to the town's consultant, who we got delayed months on that guy because we couldn't find the guy. The guy was in Florida. We couldn't make communication.
Right, but
It
you
wasn't
said-
our job to make communication. It was the town's job to make communication. There was a delay here by the town for over 4 months. And
All right, well, you just said it was a year, and now it's down to 4 months.
No,
So-
I said, no, I said we started in August of last year. I have the calendar things where we started talking about this project in August of last year.
This
Okay?
project has morphed from a simple athletic complex, which is beautiful, and now we're trying to see what more we can get out of this property here. So,
One has nothing to do with the other. This was an application for somebody that wanted to put in a receiving antenna. That's all it is. Any CB operator or any ham operator would have had a right to put this in. It has nothing to do, it had nothing to do with our code. It is just, which was proven by your own consultant that said it's a ham operation and nothing more. In fact, it's less than a ham operation because this guy's only receiving. He's not transmitting. He's only receiving, and your reports show that. We got delayed over 1 year, and that's all I'm saying, that's all I'm asking the board, is to let me continue at our risk to do all the work, and then I'll go to the town board for hardship.
My recommendation is, that's a vigorous defense. Some of the stuff is not accurate, as we just showed. But nevertheless, everything you just said, you can certainly say to the town board in support of your hardship application. But at this point, with the moratorium in effect, the board can't hear it.
Why not?
There's a moratorium on it.
Yeah,
You're not
but
going to get
what-
any approval.
I'm
You
not,
can't get a preliminary approval.
I'm just asking to get tentative approval subject to a hardship ruling. Why can't I get that?
Because there's a moratorium in effect. It'll be in
I
violation of the
understand,
moratorium.
I understand that the building department cannot give me a C of O. They cannot give me a building permit, but why can't I do the paperwork to get to the point where the board will give me a hardship, so then I can go in
Because
and
of-
get the,
Go ahead.
then you're delaying me another month.
Okay.
I just want you to know, you're delaying another month. That's all I'm asking is that you hear,
That's fi- and
send me
again,
to the
as I
proper
pointed,
boards.
as I pointed out earlier, the town was not responsible for the delay. And the law is clear with respect to when it
Well-
applies. It doesn't say anybody who's applied or anybody who's appeared. Again, all of your arguments are certainly valid for the hardship.
I don't want to
I
get
think
into the involvement
There's a
of this
board meeting
political
next,
law,
there's a
all
next
right?
board meeting next Tuesday, and that's,
Well,
you can seek the
I
hardship.
will go speak to the board next Tuesday. Please understand, based on these circumstances, I'm asking for continuation so that I don't have to wait month after month after month. I will ask for continuation. I will go to the town board and get on their agenda.
That's fine, that sounds good to us.
Yeah, you want, I mean, you can continue it to the next meeting. If
Yeah.
he gets the hardship, he
Put it
gets the
on-
hardship.
As soon as he gets it, Joe, put him back on whatever meeting it is.
Well, you want to just schedule it, and this way they don't have to renotice it.
Town board next week, at the next board meeting, assuming he gets it,
No, I'm saying, why don't you just now say, put it on for May, what our next
put it on for
meeting
the
is?
next meeting then.
Right, because we can always move it if he.
Right, if he doesn't get it, then it's 2 weeks.
Get it, then move to another time.
Or if they haven't decided on it yet, then we'll just move it, okay,
Thank you.
all right. All right, we have any, okay. Yep, that is
Yeah.
the lead agency, hang on, it's getting late, lead agency, coordination letter, yes. Okay.
Are you
Oh,
folks, wait, Skay?
Oh, it's not going to be discussed
Yeah,
tonight.
we're not discussing it tonight, unfortunately. You'd have to, you could do that, I guess, next meeting, if you want to do it at the town board.
Yeah, the town board
When
is
he goes
7,
before the town board, assuming they,
next Tuesday at 7:30 is the public
or you
comments
can
at
come
the
back,
town board.
I mean,
And they'll be at this location.
Where are they from?
now, where are you from, ma'am? Old Japan? Okay. all
And
right.
this, it'll be back here if that's successful. It'll be back on the 24th.
Gotta worry about old Japan.
All right, so you need me to sign this? Okay. That's the only other business? Okay. I'll make a motion to accept the meeting, 26. Mr. Warren, second. All in favor? Aye. Anita. Mr. Sweeney, seconds. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Good night.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.